Captain Forrest here. In today's video, I'm going to be going over both these combatants to see who would win more often than not in a Marvel Multiverse battle. Captain Marvel, representing the Marvel Cinematic Universe, versus Captain Marvel, representing Earth 994, aka the Midnight Suns. If you guys are new to my channel and you like this type of series, please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for further content. Also, shoutouts to Chad, who's a huge help with the Midnight Sun scaling and going over some of the inverse scaling for that verse. Much appreciated to him. Also, shouts to Carimbus for helping me with some of the calcs and some numbers. Much appreciated to him as well. Their channel links will be in the description. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Captain Marvel from the Midnight Suns. Then I'm going to go ahead and cover and talk about Captain Marvel from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm going to give my thoughts near the end of the video on who I think wins more often than not in an inverse situation. So, starting off with Captain Marvel from the Midnight Suns, stated by Captain Marvel that she can unleash the power of a quantum singularity white hole. The white hole is a theory that energy of a black hole gets shot out elsewhere. So essentially, the whole process of scaling a white hole would be the very same process as scaling a black hole. The ranges this feat would be for Captain Marvel would range anywhere from 3 to 50 to 50 million to billions of times into star level. So depending on what ranges you use, she could be quite high into star level, which is very impressive if we use this statement. Now, to add further scaling and just some more information and just putting her in the hierarchy, Captain Marvel states that she is Earth's mightiest Avenger and states that Hulk is in a class of his own in comparison to Thor. So essentially the order of the hierarchy would be Hulk above Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel above Thor. Captain Marvel solidifies the statement as she's able to defeat Thor in arm wrestling consistently. The Hunter states that she has witnessed Captain Marvel harness the power of the sun, but Captain Marvel quickly corrects the Hunter, saying it's more of a white hole than a star, which is very impressive. It's also stated on Captain Marvel's comic book cover that she has the force of 1,000 suns. So these statements alone solidify her place in star level, which is very impressive. Now, to finally add the cherry on top, when Captain Marvel goes into her binary form, it doubles her attack potency. So if we use the higher end interpretation, which is used for Captain Marvel, she can easily reach the potential large star level ranges of attack potency when she goes into binary. So this is very impressive, or she's easily very high into star level, so she's like star level plus. That's going to wrap up attack potency. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Captain Marvel's speeds. So now she has a lot of interpretations in terms of the speed scaling, but I'll start off with the statement. So Captain Marvel has a statement from Robbie that she can fly and traverse the solar system. Someone can traverse the solar system at a decent time. They should be able to move an astronomical unit in a decent time range, anywhere from the low ends of 13.9% the speed of light, aka relativistic, with the mid end being around the 8.34 times the speed of light, aka FTL, to the higher end interpretation being around 500 times the speed of light, aka massively faster than light, which is very impressive. So that's going to round up speed, AP, and stats. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of Captain Marvel's powers and abilities. So Captain Marvel's bread and butter is her cosmic energy. She fires cosmic energy blasts from her hands. She can perform the supernova blast, where she charges up a bunch of photonic energy and erupts with a massive AoE blast of energy, incinerating anything that comes into that area. Captain Marvel can also imbue her fists with cosmic energy to strike down her opponents with brute force, and due to Carol's cosmic connection, it grants her precognition as she gets glimpse of the future. Captain Marvel also has energy absorption. She's also able to absorb gamma infused with Lilith's dark magic into herself and also resist its atomizing effects, as Dr. Faustus was confident that Captain Marvel would be unable to absorb it and in fact disintegrate her. And this is impressive because this device was an upgrade and is more potent than the last device. So that's pretty much it for Captain Marvel in the Midnight Suns. That's pretty much all what she can do and what she's shown. I'm going to go ahead, move over and talk about Captain Marvel from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. See what she brings to the table. In Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel confronts Thanos. She proceeds to punch Thanos a few times. She is then shown afterwards to completely tank and no-sell a headbutt from Thanos, which did 0 damage. Thanos was being pressed so much in combat that he had to resort to using one of the Infinity Stones to take out Captain Marvel. This is all impressive, because characters like pre-awakened Thor and characters around Thanos' level are multi-continental level due to Thor being able to break apart and shake the planet of Jotunheim, as well as being able to destroy all of Sokovia, amongst other feats, which places Thor approximately around the 844 petatons of TNT, aka multi-continental level. After awakening his true power, he and the others on his tier increased to at least multi-continental levels or 8 exatons of TNT via being more powerful than his pre-awakened self by at least 10 times, due to Thor being able to casually shatter a portion of the Rainbow Bridge, which it took Thor 10 strikes to do so previously. Characters like Thanos are approximately 2 times stronger than this due to Thanos being able to overpower both worthy Cap and Endgame Thor at once, ranging approximately around the 18 to 22 exatons. Base Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Wanda, and others would also scale to this level of AP. Captain Marvel has multiple statements which acknowledges her to be the strongest in the universe and Marvel Studios' most powerful hero. In an Avengers Endgame commentary, it stated that Captain Marvel is as powerful, if not more powerful, than Thor.
No, I just think it's like, if you're talking about a collection of heroes and you're gonna go face Thanos, who still, we believe at this point, has the gauntlet. She is as powerful, if not more powerful, than Thor, and you suddenly have hope again.
In Captain Marvel, the explosion empowered her with superhuman abilities beyond anything yet recorded. There are even statements from Brie Larson herself, who plays Captain Marvel, stating that Captain Marvel is strong enough to push planets and also punch a moon away from a spacecraft. We don't know what planet she's talking about, but we'll use the Earth as a fair assumption. The energy required to perform such a feat would require 200,142 joules, which equates to 1.923 exatons of TNT, aka multi-continental level, which is very consistent and very impressive, as it would objectively and narratively align with her being very capable of beating up Thanos. In the Marvels film, Captain Marvel performs a remarkable feat where she casually flies into a dead sun and provides enough energy in order to recharge and rejuvenate the sun. Now, in order to gauge the amount of energy she provided to the sun to extend its time, we can use some general ranges and examples. For example, our sun has 5 billion years left. Its current output is 3.8 times 10 to the power of 28 joules per second. So if in 5 billion years Carol put it back how it is now, then that would require an output of 5.995 times 10 to the power of 45 joules, which would roughly equate to star or large star level. However, it depends on how much time Carol gave it. Now, if we use a lower end and say Carol only gave the sun 100 years, then it would pretty much be around the 1.2 times 10 to the power of 38 joules, which would range around dwarf star to large planetary levels. Very impressive. And also shoutouts to Carimbus, who is a huge help with trying to determine how impressive this feat would be. Shoutouts to him. His channel link will also be in the description. Lastly, Captain Marvel is so powerful that the Supreme Intelligence had to suppress her powers because it feared her complete powers. That's going to conclude Captain Marvel's AP. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about speed. Now, a speed feat was performed by Captain Marvel herself as she recons planet 0259-S during Avengers Endgame. This feat was calced around the relativistic plus ranges up into the 2.8 to 3.7 times the speed of light, aka FTL. Shoutouts to Carimbus for the calc. Now that's going to wrap up speed. I'm going to use powers and abilities that she possesses. Captain Marvel possesses many benefits with her cosmic powers. She has superhuman strength, durability, reflexes, photonic energy blasts, a healing factor, and flight. Just like her comic counterpart, Captain Marvel has energy absorption, and this is also stated and shown in the Marvel's 2023 movie. Carol can also enter into a binary form, which is stated to elevate her cosmic powers, which means she gains an increase in power. Captain Marvel can also utilize her cosmic powers via performing widespread attacks, firing concussive energy blasts from her hands, imbuing her energy into her fists to do more damage, using it in tactical situations such as propelling herself from the ground to separate enemies with her blasts, and overloading her restraints in order to break out of it. Captain Marvel is able to fly through the vacuum of space and through the sun and withstand the heat and pressure of the sun, meaning Carol can withstand temperatures up to 27 billion degrees and withstand pressures up to 1,920 million tons per square inch, which is very impressive. Carol is also able to snap Korath's Kree energy sword in half without any harm. It's even stated that the sword can easily slice through metal like butter, so you could potentially argue that Carol has some form of resistance to durability negation. That's going to wrap up both these combatants. I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not in an inverse situation. So let's look at both these combatants and their stats. Now, there's a stat that I'd like to address for MCU Captain Marvel, and there was a calc that was done by Versus Battle Wiki, and the sun feat that was performed by MCU Captain Marvel where she re-energized the sun with her own power, that was calced around the small star level range. So there's the low end interpretation, or mid end, or however you want to go about it. Now obviously there is the interpretation that I brought up in the video that Carimbus gave to me. Shouts to Carimbus, and that is also something that I will also take into consideration as well. So when we look at both Captain Marvel from the MCU and the Midnight Suns verse, of course, if we're using just low end like AP feats, then Midnight Sun Captain Marvel would scale higher. By default, she would be star level. She'd actually be a tier higher than MCU Captain Marvel, you know, small star level in comparison to just, you know, smack bang star level. It's a pretty big gap. And if we start using higher end interpretations, they can both reach very high into star level plus, and if we use the large star level scaling and we use binary form, including that for Midnight Sun Captain Marvel, then comfortably I would say Midnight Sun Captain Marvel would take AP quite comfortably. Now when we look at speed, they're both pretty relative when we use lower end interpretations, and especially the safe consistent end and of the FTL ranges. However, if we go a lot further and talk about the MFTL stuff, then MCU Captain Marvel is unfortunately lacking when it comes to speed department if we start using higher ends. Midnight Sun Captain Marvel would essentially blitz and she would be way too fast. So if we're gonna just stick with the consistency route, quite relative to some degree. Now let's move over from stats, and then we'll talk about how the fight would actually pan out if there was to scrap. MCU Captain Marvel and Midnight Sun Captain Marvel are quite similar when it comes to combat. Of course, they are brutes. They like to use their photonic energies, charge up their fists, fly in and literally pummel and beat the crap out of the enemy. And they like to also use ranged attacks, you know, firing photon energy blasts from a distance or using massive AoE attacks. In this context of the fight, I see that happening. They're both going to scrap, and unfortunately for MCU Captain Marvel, a lot of her attacks, a lot of her arsenal is very counterintuitive due to the lack of stats. It's only going to empower Midnight Sun Captain Marvel. She is going to be empowered, and especially if she goes into binary form, and if it comes down to, you know, a dick measuring contest on who can get more stronger and who can keep reaching those finite numbers of strength, unfortunately MCU Captain Marvel is beat in that category. And once that comes to both these combatants fighting at their peak, Midnight Sun Captain Marvel will inevitably take victory. So I gotta give victory to Midnight Sun Captain Marvel. She's just way too strong. She would eventually eclipse MCU Captain Marvel in stats, and just due to in-character arguments and how the fight would progress, I see this becoming more so of a maybe a low to mid diff comfortably. But that's my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment down below, and give your thoughts down in the comment section. It's been real. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.